Southwestern Family of Companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. Each week, our diversely and amazingly accomplished guests share their insights and inspirations to help us ignite our own. So let's invest attention together to breathe, to reflect and refocus, and decisively defeat that voice we call Mr. Mediocrity. Then let's enjoy moving forward to make a positive difference in our world. Privileged to be your host, this is Dan Moore. Well, welcome to the Action Catalyst. This is Dan Moore, and today I am most excited that we have one of the foremost students and practitioners of the whole notion of personal development, Mr. Josh Ellis. Josh is the editor-in-chief of Success Magazine and has been since 2015. This is a magazine in its various forms has been around for more than 100 years and has helped to influence countless people as they move forward. He's been named one of the 100 most influential figures in the magazine industry and has built a staff that was twice nominated for Editorial Team of the Year honors. And Josh, I've been a fan of Success Magazine since I was 19 years old. So welcome to the Action Catalyst.
Well, thank you, Dan, and I appreciate you reading all these years.
Well, absolutely. Well, I know you got your start academically at Ole Miss, so it's quite a journey from Ole Miss to editor-in-chief of Success. Can you share some of the major pivots that have occurred along the way and influences that got you the role that you're in today?
Yeah, when I was in college and going back to high school, I started my journalism career at 16 when I started writing for my hometown paper. And then through college and the early years in my career, what I was really interested in was sports writing. And I covered just about every type of game or sport you could think of, from football, all the way down to ping pong and rodeo. And I really kind of cut my teeth on that. And that was, I was your average teenage boy that was just obsessed with sports and specifically football. And so as I grew through college, and I got an internship and then got a full-time job after I graduated with the Dallas Cowboys. And it was, I remember when I first got the call about the internship, when I first got the call that I was being hired full time after a couple of years working in training camps with them for the summer. I remember running around like a lunatic, laughing and fist pumping and just ultimately excited, because this is what I wanted to do for life, or so I thought. Because after about 4 seasons with the Cowboys, 4 forgettable seasons, as most of them have been for the last couple decades anyway, I started to really think deeper about the meaning of my work, and I started to kind of come to the conclusion that although people obviously get a lot of joy out of watching their favorite teams on Sunday, ultimately I wasn't bringing anything of any great deal of value to the world. It's not, I just couldn't see myself writing, injury reports and practice recaps for, the next 50 or 60 years, as long as my career was going. And so I started to look for ways that I could bring more value to people. And around that same time, I was aware of Success. It was based in North Texas, right where I was. And around that same time, it just happened to be, good fortune that an opportunity arose at the magazine to start on as a junior editor. This was always also a chance for me to kind of grow in my career from just a writer to an editor. So the move was partially selfish, but I really did, when I took the job at Success, what really excited me was the chance to give people material content that would actually help them. It would help them, in their businesses or their careers, or just to be more motivated or inspired, it would help them in some other way other than to say, oh, Tony Romo's got a bad back today. Well, so I was here, and I learned more about editing. I learned more about the kind of content that we produce, because when I got here, it was pretty foreign to me. But I started to develop some taste for the ideas and strategies and sort of way to position the stuff that we do in success, in ways that would be most beneficial to people. And so over the course of about 3 years, I really learned a lot and improved, and then another opportunity arose, and this is, I would say, another main pivot in my career, is the chance to become the editor-in-chief. I had been a junior editor, and I got the chance to become the editor-in-chief. And the main pivot for me at that point was that I became a leader. I had a team. I had people who looked to me for leadership and for counsel, and looked to me to provide opportunities for them to grow in their careers. And I was really intimidated by that at first, because ultimately, I think any leader, whether you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 or you've got one direct report, I think that you owe it to yourself to really ask, why am I in this position? Yes, maybe I have some experiences that the people who are more junior don't have, but there's nothing that makes me superior to them in any way. So I really wrestled with that. Who am I? Because there were people on my team who were 15, 20 years further along in their careers. So I really had to wrestle with how to be a leader for them, how to be someone that they came to with their questions and their answers, and how I could serve them. And, fortunately, I happen to work at a place that has quite a bit to say about leadership. And so I was helped a little bit by so much of what I had read already from John C. Maxwell and people like that, the real, leadership experts of our time. But it really took a year or two to kind of grow out of that imposter syndrome that I think a lot of people face when they first take on management positions. And once I did that, I became more confident. I think that my people sensed my growing confidence, and that that made me more effective as a leader. And so our team went on to do some really, really incredible things together. We still, I think I'm very proud of the magazine that we put out. Some of those people have moved on, but we're still, I try to keep everyone involved, because I think one of the lessons that I've learned about leadership is loyalty. And it's just, it's something that when I came from the Cowboys, being at Success was everything that I could have hoped for in terms of creating meaning in my life, and allowing me to help create meaning and really serve other people.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting is when I hear you say, Josh, that you became more focused on serving others, and then at that moment is when you really felt that you'd grown into being a leader. In other words, when it stopped being about you and how people were looking at you, and instead what you could add to them. I think that's a fantastic insight.
Yeah, and it didn't come naturally at first, because I think I was a little bit more self-conscious than self-absorbed. I knew that it wasn't about me, and I knew that I needed to get the most out of these people and help them to get the most out of themselves. But at the same time, I was constantly, wrapped up and concerned in what are they thinking of me? What are they what am I? It's very hard to describe. But if you've ever been for anyone who's ever been a first-time manager, I think that you understand the feeling of just it really is an imposter syndrome, and I had to get through that, and that came from giving to these people and putting them in positions to succeed.
Right. Well, it's like you're in the center of a bunch of concentric circles and everybody's staring unblinkingly at you.
That's right. There's my team was great because they were very forgiving and they were all very young in their career, so they didn't quite know what to expect. I think from most of them were very young in their career, so a lot of them didn't quite know what to expect. And when in doubt, I was just nice, just be personable and friendly, and actually care about what's going on in these people's personal lives and how can I help them address those things. And so as much as I read about leadership, the lessons from just getting thrown into the fire were as instructive.
Mm-hmm. Kindness always wins, doesn't it?
Yeah, when in doubt.
Yeah, when in doubt, be the kind person, do the nice thing. I mean, it's a challenging ride you're on too, Josh. I mean, being in print publishing as well, knowing that it is an industry that many people wonder, are you still alive? And you also have a very vigorous online presence and have for quite some time. There must be some times when you've hit apparent brick walls where suddenly you were rounding a corner, things were going well, and then suddenly, kaboom, oh my gosh, can't even see over this thing or around it or under it. What's been your approach when you just get stopped by something that is external? How do you cope with that?
I think that for the most part, if it's something that involves only me, or I'm at the center of the issue, it's not someone else's problem, right? That I'm helping them fix. If it involves me first and foremost, then I think self-assessment is really important to do, and it's something that I try to just be self-aware at all times. But every now and then, I do feel the need to stop down and look at how I'm spending my time. Look at how I'm prioritizing things, and in some cases that may need a large scale shift. In some cases it might need something smaller. Ultimately, for most roadblocks, like you mentioned, most problems that need to be overcome, the solution is people. And you really have to understand and connect what drives people and what can be done to kind of help them maybe become more aligned with the mission or the task that has to be done. And that could be people from any type of background. I mean, I'm thinking of it could be if you're an entrepreneur or in a startup, it could be your business partners. In our case, I think a lot of times of executive leadership, the management, the corporate management that we have over the success brand here. It could be team members, the people who report to you, understanding and connecting what drives them personally with the mission that you have. It could be your clients or your customers. Really going deeper and thinking about why are they with you to begin with? What are they trying to get out of you? How can you make their life easier or better? And sort of create some synergy between what you need done and what they want on a deeper level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I would say again that self-assessment, knowing yourself, being self-aware, will help you avoid a lot of problems. But then also knowing people as well. I mean, there's a lot written about not IQ but EQ, an emotional quotient, and that's very much aligned with understanding what drives other people and understanding yourself.
Well, lots of studies of this say that EQ is 5 to 10 times more important than IQ, as depending on the measure you take. So I'm totally with you there. And here's kind of a different tack. Everybody has a start to their day. Do you have a pattern of how you try to start your day? First thought in the morning when you come from unconsciousness to consciousness.
I am the first thing when I wake up that I do that no one would ever advise would be I cannot help but I'm your in a lot of ways I'm your textbook millennial that I roll over and I look at my phone. It's not ideal, I don't think, but it that blue light really does wake you up sometimes. So but what I do, I do have a routine in the morning, and as soon as I've made sure that I don't have 100 emails waiting for me, I get a workout in.
Hmm.
I have I have an app that gives me a very quick but also um, pretty difficult workout, and it might just be 15 or 20 minutes, and then I also um, walk on the treadmill for a little while just to get the blood pumping. And I eat quick breakfast and hop in the shower, and I'm out. I'm on the way to the office. So I think for me, health is an important part of every day, because it's a lot of times, if I'm not conscious about it, it's the first thing that gets overlooked. And so that's something really over the last few months, maybe a year, that I've tried to make sure that I got that workout in first thing in the morning, because it kind of sets me up for the rest of my day, to just, one, feel better, but two, also feel sort of more purposeful about what I'm doing.
Right. And, leaders have an additional responsibility, because if they're not healthy and not able to function physically, they're leaving people in the lurch. And so it's even more important.
That's right. I mean, if I don't get it done in the morning, and it's hanging over my head like this thing that um, I'm going to dread doing when I get home at the end of the day, it puts me in a bad mood, or I feel sort of lethargic. And so, just for my own energy, which people, I think, need to see, because we need them to be energetic as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important for me to get that workout in.
Right. And our physical health and physical nature affects our attitude state. There's such a direct link to those two things. So you want to show up on your A game, starts by getting ourselves in the right condition physically. So I think that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Anything before you go to sleep at night that you try to either think about, avoid dwelling upon? Because so many of my guests have said that the way they start the day and the way they end the day is so really important. So just curious about that.
I do I do tend to send myself. It's not an every night practice, but I send myself just write an email to myself with notes about the next day, what I need to get done, high priority items, so that I'm not laying in bed thinking about them, having those that list turn over in my mind over and over again, and I can, by the time I lay down, I can just have a little bit of a clear head. But I think it's also really important. I'm fairly newly married. We got married. Let's see, tomorrow would be the 4-month anniversary.
Well,
So
congratulations, Josh.
maybe this is easier for someone earlier in their marriage than people who have been together for 30 or 40 years. So I'm told, but I really try to spend some quality time in just that last hour before bed with my wife, and just talk. And you spend all day away from one another. You get home and there's stuff to do. You got to cook, you got to clean, you got to you got to binge watch something on Netflix, and the the few hours that you have with one another, this person that brings you happiness and joy and love, you can let those few hours slip by just in the routine of I see you every day. So we don't necessarily have much to talk about, but it's all right to force it, because we all know about the feel good chemicals that the dopamine hit that comes with just human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no better ally that I have in my life than my wife. And so just conversation,
Mm-hmm.
holding hands,
Mm-hmm.
it's very sappy stuff sometimes, but being more connected to another person, I think makes me more connected to myself also. And so that's a pretty good routine for the evening.
I think that's fabulous. Well, having recently celebrated my 41st wedding anniversary, I say amen to everything you just put out there, Josh. Well done.
Everybody's so, I get the idea anyway from a lot of people, and maybe this is just pop culture sort of stuff, but the longer you're in a marriage, the more work it is. So I have utmost respect for anyone who could make it for that long and going strong, Dan.
Right. Well, it's a blessing, the greatest blessing of all. And there's also so many studies now that link longevity, longer life, and meaningful life with close personal relationships, and not virtual relationships, personal relationships.
When I got to success, one of the first stories that I ever wrote, and one of my favorites that I've done, is on a guy named Dan Buettner, who worked for National Geographic, and he ended up writing a very successful book called The Blue Zones. You've probably heard of it, where he traveled the world and he found the pockets of populations, and there's one in Costa Rica, and there's one on this island off of Greece, and Okinawa has one. But the populations that have what he called the blue zones, which are the highest concentrations of people who live to be over age 100, and they had a few things in common. I mean, they're definitely eating a healthier diet, and they're moving more naturally throughout the day, even as they get well into their old age. But the biggest predictor was connection to other people and feeling valued, feeling like you were needed by other people. And so I am absolutely there with you, and I think that the research bears that out, that just human connection, deep human connection, is so important for us in so many ways.
The first inspirational book I ever read was written by a former editor-in-chief of Success, Og Mandino.
Uh-huh.
And when he said in that book, "I will greet this day with love in my heart," I was in direct sales going door to door, and many people would answer the door, and it didn't appear they had love in their heart. And so to practice that in return when it's not even there on the front end is one of the essences of human connection. On the subject of personal motivation, it's possible when somebody hits a certain level that they can start to sit back and say, I'm kind of coasting, things are good here. I don't sense that ever occurs to you. So what do you do to keep this voice of mediocrity at bay and not get satisfied-itis and keep striving and keep your edge?
One of my earlier memories is being about 7 years old and not being able to sleep one night because I was having a bout of something that I don't think a lot of 7-year-olds have. That certainly my cousins that I see regularly don't seem to be bothered by this sort of thing. But I was having sort of a bout of existential questioning. I wouldn't say dread. It was more just curiosity of what is the point of all this? Why are we here? Why does any of this exist? And I'll tell you that in my upbringing, my parents were divorced when I was very young, and one side of the family was religious, and one side of the family wasn't. So I was sort of caught in the middle of that. And I can see it both ways, and either way is really the answer to your question of how do you avoid mediocrity. If you're religious, then you have to believe that your creator put you here and created this existence for you to live in for a reason. And if you're not religious, and you believe what science teaches us, then you have to consider the sort of cosmic miracle that your life is. It's they say it's an infinitesimal chance that a planet like Earth could come into existence just the right distance from the sun, with a moon just the right distance from it, and that billions and billions of years ago one amoeba turned into a multi-celled organism. And to if you want to think about the odds of your parents ever meeting, and their parents ever meeting, and their parents ever meeting, all the way back thousands, consequently millions of generations, all of that leading up to you sitting here on a late February morning, in a room where the lights tend to go out from time to time if you're not moving very much. You have to be grateful for what this is. The other option, the other possibility is that there's nothingness, right? And so whether you're religious or whether you just appreciate the sort of cosmic odds you've overcome to have this opportunity to live life, then you have to appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you have to understand that it's a gift. And for me, I try to always keep that in mind and not waste the opportunity, because it's not going to come around again. And it really is uncanny.
Completely uncanny. And they say that about 13 billion people have walked the earth, and no two have ever had identical DNA.
What are the odds that you're one of them? Or what just the for any couple that creates a child, there's an almost infinite number of possibilities of what that child is like. And that it would be me or you or someone listening to this. You just have to appreciate it. And I know that it's difficult at times, because this is the only way it's ever been. We've never known it any other way. And so it can be easy to forget that, but you have to just remind yourself of it every now and then, because we are all incredibly lucky.
Your mindfulness really stands out, Josh. Your willingness to not be so tightly zoomed in. You back up and say, let's put this in perspective and realize the world is a pretty amazing place and my spot in it is special.
Yeah, I think it's also okay to recognize that we are ultimately fairly insignificant. As you said, there's been 13 billion people to walk the planet. There's 7 billion now. I'm just one of them. But if I can live in a way that benefits as many of those other 7 billion and billions to come, possibly, then I'm not wasting my chance, and I'm not quite so insignificant.
Right. It's an old saying I was taught years ago. We should take what we do seriously, just don't take ourselves too seriously.
I think you're absolutely right about that.
And it'll go forward.
Try not to do that.
You're bound to have people, associates, employees, customers, friends, who really feel at the moment that they're just out of options, that, as the gambler says, they're out of aces. What are words of encouragement that you could share with the listener right now that just doesn't know where else to turn? Their business is in a real turmoil. Something's going on in their personal life. There's nothing good about what's going on. What steps or words of encouragement could you share?
One of the things that we teach at Success is it's an old idea from Jim Rohn, who was one of the icons of personal development in the 20th century. And he said, don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And so I think that's something that I try to live by, and we write about all the time, is there's always room to improve yourself. None of us are perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect. And in fact, no situation for anyone, any of us 7 billion, no situation is perfect. But as long as you're making progress, as long as you're working towards something, a smarter, more prepared, happier, more growing, purposeful version of yourself, then you can, over time, overcome whatever your obstacle is. And for me, something I think about from time to time is, a next level, a highest level version of myself. And I try to really get clarity on what that guy is like. He probably doesn't need the blue light from his phone first thing in the morning. He's more excited for that workout. He finds ways to make that time with his wife more, just more natural and constant. He's better at his job. He's really, and it's he's someone who motivates me to, although I may never be perfect, to try to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to vision yourself at a next level, you can live toward that Jim Rohn quote of don't wish it were easier, wish you were better.
Gosh, I can't imagine a better way to wrap up than that thought, that you envision a better version, the best version of yourself, highest version of yourself, and work steadily, gradually, with stops and starts, twists, turns, setbacks, in that general direction. And that's really what life's meant to be. Wow.
It's all you can do,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There's, from whatever your problem is, there may be a tactical way to solve it, but we're speaking more generally now. The person who solves it is you right now at a higher level.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on yourself. Sorry.
That's no problem. And there was light. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So focus on yourself first, and you will be able to solve that problem.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Josh Ellis, thank you so much for sharing some of your time with us today. I know.
My pleasure, Dan.
I'm encouraged, and I know our listeners will be encouraged too. So, as we say, best of success to you, and you're the best thing for success.
Thank you very much.
All right. Great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. To stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst and Twitter at Catalyst_Action. Thanks for listening. This episode is sponsored by Southwestern Coaching. Southwestern Coaching has helped over 12,000 people increase their incomes by over 25% on average. As a successful salesperson, you know the importance of increasing your sales, but sometimes you might just need a little extra push and accountability to meet your goals and grow your business. Southwestern Coaching will help you increase your income through one-on-one sales and leadership coaching tailored specifically to your needs. Together, we will elevate sales. To To schedule your free one-on-one business action planning session with a Southwestern coach, go to www.southwesternconsulting.com/action catalyst.